From a drop to an ocean, from a lake to the river, to the rain so familiar, and the constant transformation it suffers constantly. Solid, liquid, gas. Which one will it be? It is everywhere, impossible to miss it. Water can bring us to life, or it can stop our heartbeat. And when we're sad, it always comes in a hurry.
We need it just as much as the oxygen we breathe daily. But it wouldn't take much for the ocean to get mad and cast upon us the biggest wave to take our last sigh away. The deadly essence of life that we will crave someday. Mighty water, in its hands resides our whole destiny.
Listen to the sound of water running down a river, relaxing, floating in the middle of a lake can quite sum up our life. It is free, against all odds, without norms to obey. It will take any shape and moves on with no worry through time and space. They say water has a memory, since it is here with us and has surged from the depth of our history.
Water is clear and a mystery. Who first sipped it in the dawn of times? Will it stay after we're gone? These timeless questions are part of our existential quest. It is up to us to hold on to what keeps us alive, hoping it will be there to comfort us until the last day of our miserable lives.
The lack of certainty to describe how infinite are the possible consequences resulting from our own actions is a fact we constantly try to evade. Yet, it is a primal component of our cosmos that is made manifest from the quantum world to our daily lives. Unpredictability undermines our illusion of control, and we can easily relate this misperception to failure. Indeed, the modern perception of success is so idealized and fundamentally flawed that it doesn't envisage failure as a fundamental ingredient of triumph, which is absurd. By ignoring it, we tend to polarize every situation, only distinguishing two possible outcomes in our lives: success and failure, but never a mix of both. Therefore, our mindset is so misguided that we end up believing that not achieving is a synonym of failing, and we blame the randomness of life for it, which becomes a source of stress and fear. Unfortunately, taking risks has been demonized by those tame individuals in our society who always want to play it safe because they reckon that it's the best way to always come out a winner. Ironically, though, we're so extremely tied to the ideal of success and appearances to the point that we created a new modern evil: uncertainty. But if satisfaction is one of the greatest enemies of progress, so is dissatisfaction. As English poet Alexander Pope once said, "Blessed is he who expects nothing, for he shall never be disappointed." Another way of putting it is, expect nothing, get nothing. Expect something, get something. Satisfaction definitely does not lead to progress. Working hard to reach ambitious goals connotes great levels of discontent, while living an unproductive life simply shows how conformist and passive you are, no matter how miserable or exuberant your life may be. In my opinion, only effort leads to progress, and it requires both determination and a non-conformist attitude. So clearly, It is dissatisfaction that leads to progress. Throughout history, we can find outstanding examples across all intellectual disciplines, from science to politics, of people who boosted intellectual, social, and scientific progress by challenging the established thoughts of their time. From this spirit of skepticism came investigation, experimentation, and the scientific method. Today, from vaccines to climate change, we follow the same pattern of rational thinking, constantly questioning apparent truth, trying to overcome ignorance, and all the while avoiding to fall in the trap of excessive skepticism that can lead to absurd levels of anxiety, as with conspiracy theories. Even though there is no such thing as human perfection, there are people who fantasize about creating an enhanced breed of human beings with the help of science. This kind of perfectionism is really a symptom of the negative values of our time, obsessed with high-quality results. When perfectionism means the fear of the natural odds of life, then it establishes unrealistic standards and goals, which translates into high levels of stress, unhealthy lifestyles, and a rise in mental health problems, which is also a main feature of present-day society. So, what do you think? Would you prefer taking the risk of uncertainty on the road to progress, or rather play it safe by accumulating the greatest chances of success? American poet Robert Frost wrote, "Two roads diverged into a wood, and I took the road less traveled, and that has made all the difference."
Eyes. When I start to talk to someone, I just see their eyes. Sometimes they're slanted, big or small. Eyes can tell you which mood anybody is. On some occasions, they're happy and content, melancholy or sad. They can reflect love and hate or a lack of concern. But why is that? The eyes are the screen through which our feelings are reflected, our state of mind, and the inside of our heart. The most beautiful eyes are the most expressive ones that have the warmth and the brightest of sunlight.
The filmmaker I chose is Christopher Nolan, who personally is my favorite director. And firstly, I would like to speak about who he is. Christopher Nolan is a British-American film director, producer, and screenwriter. And what I like about him is that he knows how to act that personal feeling that really makes it stand out over the rest. Well, in terms of numbers, Christopher Nolan has gathered 34 Oscar nominations and 10 wins, which is pretty far above average. But anyways, moving on, I'm gonna talk about what inspired him to become a movie director. Well, first, the master of cinema that inspired him is Ridley Scott, yeah. And basically, some of the movies that inspire him are science fiction films like 2001 A Space Odyssey that was released in 1968, and most commonly known Star Wars that got out in 1977. One thing about his childhood that I like to add is that he began making films at age 7 with his father's camera with his action figures. I think that's a pretty neat detail that I really enjoyed. And in fact, he also made a film, a homage to Star Wars, called Space Wars. And to talk a bit about what inspired him, Ridley Scott's works, Nolan's films are typically highly philosophical. They dabble in things such as human knowledge, metaphysical terms, like exploring human morality and the construction of time. A clear example is the movie Inception, which was a movie that I personally enjoyed, but it's true that it's really hard to understand, and well, that's kind of the point. Well, that's something that directors such as Ridley Scott really like to get into because it's something that he shows in his work. And his works are typically marked by a large use of narrative structures like most films, but the difference that they're pretty unconventional. And he also likes to use practical special effects, which is something that Ridley Scott also loves to use. Ridley Scott, when he made his movies, CGI didn't exist, so he had to use practical effects, but even now he prefers using them, just like in Alien, one of Ridley Scott's most famous movies. And that is something that Christopher Nolan picked up from Ridley Scott. He's also known for being one of the 100 most influential people in the world in 2015. That was a title that was given to him by the magazine Time. It's not really impactful to his career, but I think it's something that he did deserve because he's a really great film director, and I think well, in my opinion, he's one of the only film directors that you can go to the movie theater and watch one of his films without looking at the critics because you know it's gonna be good. I mean, one of the examples, Dunkirk, it's a movie about the Second World War. I would really recommend it. But I think his most famous picture is the Dark Knight trilogy. One of the things I really love about him that I think he has in common with Ridley Scott is that he takes an abstract concept like a superhero, Batman, giving him technology, because in the Dark Knight trilogy, Batman is full of gadgets, technological gadgets, that one can say it's science fiction, which is something that he shares with Ridley Scott. They can take something as abstract as aliens and make it into a movie franchise full of science fiction, and don't make it seem like it just came out of nowhere. Like these aliens, they have an explanation, and Batman doesn't just like become a superhero who can beat everyone just because he's Batman. No, there's an explanation. They have technology, and these aliens are born through, well, some process I explained is in the movie. And well, that's what I wanted to talk about Christopher Nolan. And if someone somehow hasn't seen a movie, I would really recommend it. It's really enjoyable.
Hello, my name is Niall Fernandez. I am in premiere. So, as for filmmaker, I chose a British director called Christopher Nolan. He's done movies such as Inception, Interstellar, the Batman Dark Knight movies, Dunkirk, and many others. Now, I'll be talking about the movie done by Christopher Nolan in 2010, Inception. On the surface level of the movie, it's about a group of people who have this technology which they can access other people's dreams and go inside of them and manipulate that person's mind or implant ideas. Roll back a few years earlier, before Inception was released in 2010, in 2006 an animated Japanese movie was made called Paprika. The movie Paprika is also about a group of people who have access to this dream machine which allows them to enter people's mind while they're dreaming. Now, what's really impressive about animated movies or series in general, it's that it's a form of media in which anything can be depicted as long as you can draw it. So in this case, Paprika is a very flashy movie with lots of abstract and maybe even psychedelic representations of dreams. While on the other hand, Inception has the same base as Paprika, but with a more realistic tone and twist to the movie. Inception is obviously inspired by many aspects of Paprika. There's some shot-by-shot scenes that are identical to Paprika in Inception. However, Christopher Nolan doesn't copy exactly the movie. the plot is not exactly the same, but as I said before, the base is the same, with the fact that in both movies there's people going inside dreams. And what Christopher Nolan accomplished in Inception is that he managed to do something so abstract, something such as a dream, and try to create it in a live action movie. Unlike in an animated movie, anything can be done, as I said. Now, Christopher Nolan has never publicly admitted that Inception was inspired by Paprika, but it's very, very obvious by the fact, as I said before, there's shot-by-shot scenes which are identical in both movies. Now, the question is, how was Christopher Nolan impacted by Paprika? So, for starters, there's a tendency, or more like a stereotype, but it's fairly true, that many animated Japanese media are very flashy, with lots of colors, lots of everything, and some might find it visually appealing, or some might find it visually abstract or uncomfortable. So in this case, both movies, Inception and Paprika, are very visually stunning. And as I said before, given that Christopher Nolan copied some scenes off of Paprika, he actually tried to recreate them in Inception. It looks very real. Now, Christopher Nolan didn't exactly copy it because the world doesn't look as flashy as a Japanese animated movie. He tried to give his own twist, so there's less colors, and the feeling that you get from watching both movies is completely different. It's also important to note that Christopher Nolan hasn't done this once. He actually did it already with the Batman movies. He recreated something off of a comic, and comics tend to be also very colorful or very flashy since it's superheroes. And Christopher Nolan managed to recreate something from a comic book and try to make it look realistic, or something that can or might actually happen in real life. Which is what makes Christopher Nolan's inspirations from other forms of media so impressive. He can grab something or another story and try to recreate it with a very realistic tone, and it feels like it might actually happen. So to continue on with Picasso's quote, "Good artists copy, great artists steal." In this case, Christopher Nolan isn't copying either Batman comics or the Paprika movie. He's stealing from them a base, a structure from them. He's stealing one little part of the movie, especially in Paprika, and not that much in the Batman movies, given that the Batman movies are more of an adaptation. So in Paprika, he steals the fact that there's people going inside dreams and some scenes, but the plot, it's not the same. The endgame of each movie is not the same. The effect that both film directors in Paprika and Inception wanted to leave on the viewer is very different from one another. So some might call Christopher Nolan a great artist, given that he can grab something from someone else, steal it in this case, and not make it look like he actually stole it, but more of an inspiration to some extent, not fully an inspiration. Thank you very much.
If liberty means anything at all, it means the right to tell people what they do not want to hear. By saying this, George Orwell meant in his time, and even more so now, people have become terribly selfish or self-centered. In Orwell's time, there were a totalitarian regime that sought to control the masses in any number of ways, mostly with media propaganda on radio waves and in newspapers. Two examples are the novels Animal Farm and 1984. Personally, I consider there's another side to it that could become more common as time goes by. In fact, I think there may be a time when people will be ready to sacrifice everything, even their humanity and unique intelligence, in order to meet the expectations of their society, or to obey their new overlords, just like in the first pages of Fahrenheit 451 by Ray Bradbury. In our time, we're obsessed with the concept of the inhuman. In contemporary fiction, a clear example is The Walking Dead, a post-apocalyptic series showcasing a doomed world where the foundations of human society have been dramatically weakened. The series proves the current fascination for survival stories, and this type of horror fictions highlight human beings' worst instincts against all reason and scientific logic. The only solution to people's problems seems to be armed violence, killed or be killed. I understand that people are fascinated with the concept of what it is to be human. In the recent years, we have seen numerous discoveries, press articles, public debates, books, TV shows, and movie sagas that focus on the existing topic of human survival in modern times. Another example is the movie trilogy Saw, in which random people are trapped and made to go through all kinds of terrifying and deranged puzzles until at the end they understand in one way or another what it is to feel alive. But then again, it's an extreme way of teaching someone how to really appreciate life. In the same way, I recently discovered a Netflix production called Sweet Home that features how far people are ready to go in their pursuit of happiness. Well, there is basically no limit to the satisfaction of their desire until a mysterious virus starts turning them into monsters. But the comforting thought of this dystopian world that in spite of all bloodbath and God-spilling sin, some individuals do continue to fight against this evil disease and manage to keep their humanity in order to protect others. Hence, George Orwell's other very wise warning for the future. It's not so much staying alive, it's staying human that counts. It's that we don't betray each other.
She came from far away and illuminated all like a giant ball of light, but no one would cross her way, 'cause she was called an evil brat. Her wings were made of thin, opaque glass, her eyes red like flooding blood. A mischievous king, a feisty fairy, then gave birth to their daughter named Nashira, who was born on the first day of April.
Whispers in the middle of the forest are heard. Delicate blue winds flutter euphorically. The sweet aroma of azahar and rain permeate the place. Mesmerizing amethyst skies sparkle without stopping. A hypnotizing melody is heard at the lake. Countless creatures listen to a star, daughter of the sun and the moon, a mystical being by nature. Adara, the fairy who brings light to the night sky.
On a rainy day, with a pale moonlight, the whole world stopped by to present the exact moment when the two stars collided.
Unexpected and fortunate find, by the prodigious magic of serendipity, an admirable constellation came to form. Thy wonder, two souls creating mystical splendor.